press, you do have to press, but your own personal
Story.
is incredibly important. And I say that like it's easy. It's incredibly brave and difficult to tell a stranger, particularly a person in position of authority and power where the perpetration has most often occurred. It's incredibly difficult to tell them your story, but it's the most powerful tool.
Agreed. Thank you. Karen, you had, in New York State, I think you know that we have focused, a lot of child sexual abuse is focused around the church and the religious community and the clergy. And of course, now, schools are being brought up. I mean, we just had a Times article about Poly Prep Sunday in the New York Times. We certainly, over the last decade, there's been more and more disclosure of childhood sexual abuse in schools. You've been involved in the Penn State. I know, and it's part of the coalition, and maybe you can talk about what your role has been, and what your experience has been working with an institution like Penn State. Those who, I think all rape crisis workers have some relationship with our local higher education institutions and find it extremely frustrating for lots of reasons. I mean, they have built-in barriers because they are such huge institutions, and they've built-in protections, and they can wear you down. And if you have a president who actually is responsive to transforming a college culture to be intolerant of sexual violence, it becomes an academic process where you will talk about it for 3 years before anything gets done. And but share with us, if you can, what you've been doing.
Yes, thank you for having me here tonight. It's a wonderful evening. Well, Penn State approached us because we're in Pennsylvania, and they knew that we do this kind of work as far as resources for victims and a lot of prevention work. And we're still working out what exactly we're going to do with them, but we've been, I guess, giving them some advice, if you will, and some resources, and putting them in touch with experts and with other universities who may be doing some things that they might want to take a look at. We're trying to think of it in both the short term and the long term. I think in the short term, they really need to do some things that are rather visible to indicate their true intentions. They need to make child sexual assault and assault on campus an open topic. They need to allow space for their students, their faculty, their staff, their community, who are all grieving and experiencing extreme shame and other emotions. So they need to do those kind of things. But then, of course, in the long haul, they really need to not only look at policies and procedures, which is kind of the easy thing to do. They need to change the very fiber of their culture. And the people that are remaining there now that are at the top seem to understand that. And seem to really want to have I guess the long-term legacy be what happened after this, and the resources that they can bring to bear to help solve the problem. I think it was a wonderful symbolic gesture that they fired Joe Paterno. That was huge for that community, for that institution. And the fact that it happened rather quickly, and of course the university president and the director of athletics, that I thought was very good. And I thought that was a little bit different tactic than what the Catholic Church had taken. And although I'm sure they had very selfish motives for doing so, I'm sure it was legal protection, but nevertheless, it sent a message. And I know that a lot of victims, particularly male survivors of child sexual abuse, have felt that this might be a safe time to come forward now, finally. So we've heard from a lot of people in our rape crisis centers, have heard from a lot of people that said, well, now it seems like society might be taking this seriously, or the outrage is giving some confirmation
Right.
that you were talking about. So I think that can be a
And
good thing.
support.
Yes,
And, yeah, that and validation, I would think.
yes.